Hey folks, I've been getting lots of emails. Now, before, in the old days, I used to get a lot of email asking me questions about my trading, what strategies I use, what systems I use, how I enter the trade, how I exit the trade, and so forth. But lately, I've been getting a lot of questions that ask about my background. People want to know more about me. So I decided to do a three-part video series talking about my background, to teach you a little bit more about you so you can learn more about how I think. And I'll do it in a way where it's related to trading, all right? So the first thing was, I get this question all the time. I get it, and I want to answer it here live. The question is, Roger, what are some of the most painful lessons that you've learned in trading? So one of the most painful lessons that I learned in trading was my first huge loss. And I don't mean my first loss in terms of a trade loss. I'm talking about my equity loss. Because here's what happened. I started trading while I was in law school. And I was doing really well my first 6 months. Now, I was doing everything wrong, okay? I was trading too big. My position sizes were huge. I was buying stocks that were making new lows instead of stocks making new highs. I was riding my losers and cutting out of my winners. Basically, anything I could do wrong, I was doing wrong, and I was making money, all right? I was over leveraging myself. I mean, if I think back on it, I don't even know how I did it, but I took about $5,000 and I turned it into somewhere around between 35 and 40,000. I'm going back close to 25 years, so it's been some time. And I remember I started trading like first week of January. And I started with about $5,000-$6,000, and I went up to 35 to 40,000, all to about end of May, beginning of June. And I remember going to bed the night that my account peaked, and I was so proud of myself. And I was so happy. Not happy because I had $40,000 and I was still 25 years old. I was a young kid, 24 years old, and I was going to law school, and I thought that this was it. I thought that I discovered the Holy Grail. And I thought that I could just keep doing what I was doing and the results would be the same. And I remember that night because it was a very special moment in my life, because I had that aha moment and I was so proud of myself. And it was like a celebration in my head that took place. And then all of a sudden I kept doing what I was doing, and then everything started unwinding. And the 35 to 40,000 became 30,000 and 25,000 and 15,000 and 10,000. And that's what I'm talking about. That was one of the worst experiences of my life as a trader, because it was like blowing up a balloon and then doing it over 4 or 5 months and making this beautiful balloon, or baking a cake, doing something that takes a long time and you take a lot of effort. And you see the success built over time, and because it's not instant and it happens over time, you think you've made it and you think you've got something, and then all of a sudden someone just goes, boom, and the balloon explodes right in your face, and it hurts. And that's when I really started to think, can I do this? Is this a reality? Is this for me? I don't like this disappointment. I mean, this is rough. So that mindset that happened after I'd begun going from a winner to a loser completely devastated me. It was a really bad experience, and I took it really bad, and I'll tell you why. Up to that point, everything and anything I tried, I succeeded in. When I went to law school after having an associate's degree. I didn't even get a bachelor's degree. In California, I don't know about now, but back in the day, you can go to law school without having a bachelor's degree, and that's what I did. I did really well on the LSAT, and I got into law schools, and I got the best grades, and I amadured, which means you get the highest grade in I think 4 out of 6 classes. I was just killing it. I was really successful. I had an amazing memory. When I was young, I could remember things like an elephant. I really had an amazing memory. So I wasn't used to seeing failure up to that point, and I was failing miserably. And it was very challenging for me because I literally had to look at a mirror, because nobody was responsible for these mistakes. I couldn't blame anyone. I couldn't blame my family. I couldn't blame my parents. I couldn't blame my uncles, my aunts. It was all me. And let me tell you how silly it got. it got to a point where I got so turned off of trading for a few weeks because I wanted to reassess things that I literally was looking for reasons that my broker was bad so I could transfer the account to another broker and repeat the same things. I mean, all these things were going through my head. And I look back on it, and I'm sure others do ridiculous things too. I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to face reality. And the reality was, what I was doing was not going to work for the long term. And I needed to say, I failed. Now, once I did that, and once I started over again, it was great, and I learned from my mistakes. And I'm one of those people, I rarely repeat the same mistake twice. I really learn from my mistakes. So I started developing systems, and I started developing strategies, and I developed a foundation. And once I developed that foundation, I failed again. I failed a few times, but not to the same extent. They were minor setbacks. I was on the right path. And I continued on that path. And again, it all started with a solid foundation. And here's the thing, if I never went through that experience, or maybe if I went through that experience that I went through after 5 months, what if it took me 8 years to get there? Or 10 years, or 20 years? It would have been much, much harder to undo. Okay? So again, I wanted to tell you about one of my worst, if not the worst trading experience. It wasn't really an experience, it was more of a event that just struck me upside down my head and said, wake up, Roger. You have to do something different. All right, that's the first video. I'll answer the second question in the second video, and I'll answer the third question in the third video. Again, please stay tuned. Watch this video series. If you're enjoying this, if you're getting something out of this, if you're seeing yourself in some of this, please subscribe to our channel. All right? I'll see you guys in a minute.